Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. A slightly different video, at least for me, though admittedly in the land of YouTube this is not exactly original. What we're doing today is a tier list video. I stumbled onto a video by a YouTuber come streamer known as Hey Whoa. I will leave a link in the description. And they had done a tier list of all the AOS, and I quote, centerpiece models. So all those sort of big models that sort of epitomize a faction, the really big cool stuff, and they made a tier list out of it. And I saw that idea and I thought, well, I really like the AOS miniatures range. So I watched the whole thing and I had a look at it and I thought, you know what, I can make one of these. So that's why we're here today. I've copied their tier list. I've literally just gone to their tier list and I'm going to fill it in. The only thing that I've changed is I've added one additional category. So up at the top here you have God tier. That doesn't mean that the God models will necessarily end up there. We'll get to them. But they are the best of the best in the AOS miniatures range. Glorious miniatures, excellent. C+, I'm calling good. When I was actually just drafting this in my head, I ended up with a lot of models that I just considered to be fine. There's nothing spectacular about them. They're not bad by any means, but I wouldn't call them good either. So I've added this C- category that I'm calling fine. Other than that, it's the same as theirs. There's two separate D tiers. One's called Missed Opportunity, so a really should have been better model. And old and it shows, so they're for some models that are just a bit, they're not bad, but they're showing their age. This particularly applies to the old fantasy miniatures. In their own words, the derp zone, I didn't change that. These are just sort of derpy looking miniatures, and then the bin. There is the odd model that may end up in the bin. But we will see where we go. Final caveat just before we start, all opinions are entirely my own. I've not consulted with anyone on this. If you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments and we can have a discussion. In short, though, this is just my thoughts, and I am also very biased because I like elves. So if certain elves end up in certain places and you think, what are you doing, Tack? That's kind of why. I'll try and explain my biases as we go. So we'll start ourselves off with the Abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. The Flesh Eater Court's sort of monster hero model. I remember when this model came out. I think it was 2012, 2013, I think it came out, when Vampire Counts got a redo. And I remember at the time really, really liking it. And when I was thinking about an army to do for Age of Sigmar, before I'd actually bought any battle tomes, Flesh Eater Courts was one of them. And part of that was very much motivated by the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. In fact, I had this whole Fallout Flesh Eater Courts idea where the glowing one for the Ghoul Kings, Feral Ghouls, Super Mutants for the Crypt Horrors, and yada yada yada. I never did it in the end, but I've always liked the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, and for me, I think it really, really holds up very, very well. So I'm going to start off by placing it in B tier, because I think it is a really excellent model. However, I have a feeling it will slide into good at some point during the video. I'm going to leave it there for now, and then we'll rearrange the tier list at the end. I'm just going to drag them into the categories now, and then I'll rearrange the order at the end. Then we have the Achelian Leviathan. Now, I own an Achelian Leviathan. I just got sent one in the post by a subscriber, so thank you. I paid for it, though, don't worry. And I love it. Ever since the Ideneth were revealed, I wanted a Doom Turtle, and now I've got a Doom Turtle, and I could not be happier. For me, the Achelian Leviathan is... you see, my instinct puts it in A tier. My instinct says A tier because I absolutely adore it. But I'm going to put it in B for now, though I think it's right at the top of B tier or in A tier because I absolutely adore it, but it's a bit simple. There's nothing complicated about it in terms of its design. The Ideneth on top are a bit static, and while the turtle looks amazing, is it truly glorious given its simplicity? I'll come back to that one later, I think. Alarielle, on the other hand, no argument, A tier. I'm not hearing any argument on this one. Alarielle is amazing. Considering she was not the first of the god models, but the first full AOS god model, because Nagash and stuff predated AOS, she is amazing, and she holds up amazingly given she's now 5 years old, I think, maybe older than 5 years old. So Alarielle is an absolutely gorgeous miniature, and if she hadn't lost the elf keyword in the new book, I'd actually just buy her and put her in one of my Idoneth armies or something as an ally, which I'm allowed to do because they can ally with Sylvaneth. I probably won't, but, you know. Then we have the Ale Guzzler Gargant. In the video, Haywo was very much like, this belongs in the bin. And I can understand why people would say it belongs in the bin. I'm going to put it in E tier. It's a bit derpy, and it is a very old model, the Warhammer Giant. But even against the Mega Gargants in the Sons of Behemoth, it doesn't look bad. It hasn't aged particularly well, so I could argue it might belong in the D tier. But I'm going to put it in E tier because it does have a bit of that old age derp to it. So I'm going to leave it there. It's not absolutely rubbish, but I can see why some people don't like it. The Arachnarok Spider, on the other hand, is very similar to me to the Abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. Because it's one of those models that it came out in 2012-13, I think, and I instantly fell in love with it. In the end, it ended up being eclipsed by some of the later models that went on to define Gloomspite Git. We'll get there later. But the Arachnarok is a model I've always really, really liked. So I'm going to put it for now in B, but like the Ghoul King, I can see it sliding down as we go along. Then we have, I think his name's Cavalos, the Ossiarch cavalry leader. He's fine, but Catacross is in the same army, and we'll get to Catacross later. So, I think he's good. I wouldn't go any higher. It's a nice model, the Arch Cavalos, or what, Xantos, I think his name is. Arch Cavalos Xantos, I think. It's a nice model, it is. But I wouldn't call it excellent. It's just good. It's good. That's all I'll say on the matter. Archaon. Archaon. Archaon is good. Archaon is good. It's a nice model. Also, note to editor Tactica in the far future, please do put the models on screen when you're showing them rather than all these little thumbnails, because the viewers are going to struggle to see them. Archaon is good. I really like Dorgar, but at the same time, it's got just a hint of the over-designed silly about it. Archaon is fine, but the Varangard are better. That's Archaon's cardinal sin, is the Varangard, the faction he leads, are better looking than he is. And so, he's a good model, but I wouldn't go any higher than that. And now we start the elf bias train, because here's Teclis. Right, Teclis. We need to talk about Teclis. Teclis is a model that if I didn't own it, I would probably put him, maybe not E tier, but certainly D tier. That was where I had Teclis before I bought him, because he's T-posing with attitude, but Selenar looks lovely. And the artwork of Teclis is stunning, like literally stunning. And yet, as I built and I painted my own Teclis, which I'm looking at rather affectionately across the room right now, the more I came to love this model. Objectively, I think it is a missed opportunity. Objectively. Because this is the god of magic itself. Oh, excuse me. The Lord of Light. This is Teclis. And he should be here. He really, really, really should be here. But he isn't. I'm going to say he's good. And that's only because I've worked on him. And I've actually had a chance to use the model and play around with it a bit. That it's really actually kind of good. However, there is a conversion of Teclis, which I'll try and link in the description, where they adjusted his pose. I was too scared to do it. And it looks actually godlike. There is a conversion. I'll link it in the description. I found it on Twitter. Go look at it. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Next up, Caradron Overlord's Arcanaut Ironclad, the big gunboat. I'm more cyberpunk than steampunk in terms of my preferred aesthetics. I don't have a problem with steampunk at all, and I think in AOS it makes sense. Well, okay, sense in as much as anything in this universe makes sense. I think it's fine to have steampunk as an aesthetic. The Arcanaut Ironclad is... I want to say it's fine. I'm going to put it in good. I think I'm going to slide Xantros down to fine. And I'm going to slide... No, I'll come back to that bit later. I'll come back to B tier later. I think the Ironclad is good. And I would play a Caradron army with very little hesitation, but I wouldn't necessarily do it because of the Ironclad. The Endrin Riggers are some of my favourite models. The Ironclad, not so much. But it is a good model. I do like it. Next up, we have the Mortarks. Haywo and the designers put the three of them together. Arkan the Black, Neferata, and Manfred von Karstein. These models predate Age of Sigmar, I think. I think they do. Do they? Actually, no, I don't think they do. I'm losing track of time now. And they're fine. They're fine. As Mortarks go, they're good. They're good Mortarks. But Olinda is unique. And Katakros will get to Katakros. Actually, no, they're good. They are good models. I've actually seen Neferata in person, and it is a very imposing miniature. I'll move it up to good. I'll put it up to good for now. Magmadroth. Apparently, people don't like Fire Slayers, apparently, because of their aesthetic. I disagree. I really like Fire Slayers, and I love the Magmadroth. Again, I would build an army around Magmadroths, because there are some factions that you just think, I want that model. Alariel is one. The Arachnarok is another, the Leviathan is another, and the Magmadroth is another. And that, to my mind, makes them at least excellent, because I would build an army around them. Then comes a Valinor, Spirit of the Mountain, or in general, the Alarith Spirit of the Mountain. And to me, I am one of those people who really likes the Battle Cattle. I prefer the basic one to a Valinor, which I'm surprising myself when I say that. But I think this model is glorious. You can yell at me for Elven bias on this one. You really, really can. But I love the Spirit of the Mountain. I think the Alaris Stone Guard's helmets look a bit silly, but in general, the Lumineth aesthetic with the mountain stuff is gorgeous. I love it. And I think that the Spirits of the Mountain are amazing. So it's in A tier for me. You may disagree and I'll completely understand. Next up is Aventis Firestrike. And this model is fine. It's a nice enough model. The Taurolon is fine, but I remember I was actually a Stormcast player at the time that the Sacrosanct Chamber was released, and with the possible exception of Evocators on Dracolines, nothing really spoke to me and said, yes, buy this now. The Taurolon is nice. I won't sit here and say it isn't, but it doesn't do anything for me. It's fine. It's fine. Objectively, it's well designed, but it doesn't do anything interesting like Archaon and Teclis do. It's just dude sat on a big horse, which is kind of what Xantos is, but smaller. He's just dude sat on a skeleton horse. Next up is the Mega Gargants. The War Stomper, the Kraken Eater, and the Gate Breaker. That's all of them together, all in one section. And these models are fine. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, you can see like down here, the only thing down here is the Elgas the Gargant. The Gargant aesthetic isn't something that particularly appeals to me, and I'm in no rush, even though I could use it in any army I've ever owned, to get a Mega Gargant. It's a nice enough model, and the customization is great. I love how custom it is, but it's just it's just kind of there. And it's great that it's there because we have a knight faction, but it's also just kind of there. So it's fine. It's fine. The black coach is excellent. I'm going to start in excellent. That could find its way into A tier. No lie, it could find its way into A tier. For now, I'm going to leave it in B tier. I think it's an excellent model. Even if I'm not a Nighthaunt person, I think it is an excellent model. Celestant Prime, on the other hand, is a missed opportunity. The Celestant Prime, well, all I need to do is say, go look at Nagash, then come back to the Celestant Prime and tell me the difference. The Celestant Prime doesn't have the impact and gravitas that he should, considering he's the greatest warrior of the Stormcast Eternals, wielding Galmaraz itself. And to me, as a result, it's got a bit of the Teclis about him with the T-posing, but unlike Teclis, who has a really nice rest of him, and is not dominated by T-posing with attitude, the Celestant Prime is just default posing with attitude over some swirly bits. And they could have done something much cooler. Like, why is Galmaraz so small? And why is he not swinging it or calling down comets? He's just standing there. Bit of a missed opportunity to do something cool with his pose. Nothing wrong with him, it's mainly his pose that makes him a missed opportunity to me. Next up, for Slaves to Darkness, the Chaos Lord or Sorcerer Lord on Manticore. This is a model that to me is showing its age. It's a nice enough model. I actually quite like the Chaos Manticore. I think it's actually quite nice. But it is getting on a bit. I think it's, unlike the Arachnarok, which I've got all the way up here, and the Terrorgeist, I don't think it holds up to the other Chaos monsters the same way that these guys hold up to the Destruction and Death monsters that we have. So, to me, it's old and it's kind of showing its age a little bit now. And the same applies to the Chaos War Shrine. Now, I like the Chaos War Shrine, but again, you compare it to things like the Cauldron of Blood that came out around the same time. You compare it to the Thunder Tusken Stonehorn. You compare it to the Leviathan in particular. It's now starting to show its age a little bit. And so while it's fine, it's also not at the same level as these models I actually consider to be fine models. It's just there, but it's also getting on a bit and you're kind of starting to notice. Colossal Squig. This is a Forge World model, for those who haven't seen it before. It's a Forge World model called the Colossal Squig. And I know squigs are silly. I know squigs and proportionality don't really go together. But what makes squigs work, like the classic squigs, is that they're about 70% face and the rest of it is leg. And the Colossal Squig tries to reproportion itself and it looks like it could never possibly stand up. It's so far out of proportion that it shifts from quirky to a bit derpy. So I'm going to put it in E tier. Is it better than the Ale Guzzler? No, I don't think it is. Then we have the Cygor. This is an old Beast of Chaos model, formerly Beastmen. It's the Wizard Hunter that throws a rock with one eye. And that model is getting on a bit. I know the Gorgon is just down here, but to me the Gorgon will do it at the same time. It's just, it's there and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The Cygor, I think, is not as good. I've never thought it was the better looking variant, even when it came out back in the early 2010s. I always preferred the Gorgon to the Cygor, and I think the Gorgon holds up better than the Cygor does. That's just my opinion. Next up is the Dankhold Troggoth, or Dankhold Trog Boss, I suppose. They're both the same kit. This is a nice kit. It's a nice kit, and whilst as a Gloomspite theorist, I never really gravitated towards the trolls, I do see the appeal of it, and it is a very, very detailed model. So I'm going to put it in good. It's a good model. I wouldn't say it's an excellent model for me, but that might just be my personal preferences for aesthetic that's keeping it down. Again, I said at the beginning, there will be biases. The Skaven Doomwheel, on the other hand, that's also a good model to me. That is a model that, despite the fact it's from 2000 and 2009, 2010, I think. It's a really old model now, the Skaven Doom Wheel. It doesn't show its age or at least it doesn't to me. Yes, it is very two-dimensional. Yes, it doesn't have any wonky sideways leaning pose that you could do. No, it's not shooting anything out of its warp lightning cannons in particular. But aesthetically, I've always loved the Doom Wheel. You've got the rats on the inside treating it like a giant running hamster wheel so that it can move. The fact that it's so chaotic and erratic is really summed up really nicely in the model. I love the Doom Wheel. I can't say it's on the tier of anything above it, but I do like it quite a lot. And given the choice of do you want a Doom Wheel to go into a Skaven army or Xantos, I honestly think I might go toward the Doom Wheel if I didn't have my biases about Ossiarch being a nicer faction than Skaven, but that's beside the point. Next up is another Forge World model, the Dread Saurian. And this model is, well, I'll show you on the screen, it is really just a giant dinosaur. There's nothing, unlike the Carnosaur, which at least has something cool going for it, it doesn't even have a rider or anything like that. And especially because it's a Forge World model, it's a lot older because it's from back when they were doing fantasy miniatures. And it does look a bit derpy. I think it's better than the Colossal Squig. But that's it. That's it for me. I think it's sort of down there. It's really showing its age, and it now looks a little bit silly compared to the much more streamlined Carnosaur that we'll get to later. Next up is the formerly Dark Elf Dragon, now known as the Dreadlord on Black Dragon, or Sorceress on Black Dragon, depending on your faction, from Cities of Sigmar. And I really like this dragon. I'm going to put it in good. I actually have never owned one of the Dark Elf Dragons because I got my Malekith instead when it was on a last chance like made to order. I got Malekith instead, like the old classic Malekith. And that model is derpy as heck, but also, you know, it was Malekith and I really wanted a Malekith. In hindsight, I would absolutely get this dragon. The High Elf Dragon was showing its age and because it's much older. This dragon is not in the slightest showing its age. It's very lithe, which is different to a lot of classical dragons. And whilst, yes, there are other companies that make better dragons, as GW dragons go, this is a very good dragon, and I like it. And again, you could say elf bias as well. Next on our list is Drycha Hamadryth, the sort of hive vengeance spirit thingy for the Sylvaneth. And this model is... I'm going to put it there. I'm going to put it in B tier for now. And I'm going to leave it there because is it better than Teclis? In terms of the message that it conveys, like you look at Drycha, what does it tell you? It's big, it's loud, it's angry, it's covered in beehive type spirit creatures. It's going to ruin your day. It conveys its message really well in its design to me, and I think it pushes it slightly above Teclis. Because I'm going to use Teclis as my sort of top of good barometer for now. And to me, Teclis doesn't convey, I am the god of magic and I am going to ruin your life. He does do that, but he doesn't convey it quite as well as Drycha conveys her sort of character focus. The Eidolon of Matlin, I'm taking no ifs, no buts, no coconuts. It is god tier. Get in the sea. It is amazing. The Eidolon of Matlin, I remember when this model was teased, not even revealed, but teased in the first Idoneth trailers that they did. And I instantly wanted one. And when they actually revealed it and I got the Idoneth book, I wanted one even more. The Eidolon was probably the best miniature GW made in 2018. That's a bold call from me. I know that's bold, and even now I'm looking at Morathi, who's like a little bit later down this list, and I'm thinking, but Morathi, mate, Morathi. Can I? For me, I think in terms of lasting impact, the Eidolon is the best miniature of 2018. There, I said it. In hindsight now, looking back, I think it's the best miniature of 2018. You're welcome to disagree. I love the Eidolon. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. It is God tier. It is God tier. Engine of the Gods, Seraphon, getting on a bit. The Stegodon looks fine. The Palanquin looks fine. The Skinks look fine. But compared to like other Palanquin creatures, I think it's about on par with a War Shrine to me. It's about on par with the War Shrine. It's certainly got nothing on a Leviathan or some of the other creatures up here that are mounted. Certainly it's not on their level, and it's not a missed opportunity by any means. It was a 2009 design, but it certainly is showing its age, given it's over a decade old. Flamespire Phoenix, formerly of the High Elves, now belonging to the Phoenix Temple in the cities of Sigmar. This model is fine. I'm tempted to put it in showing its age, because the pose is pretty boring, and the Anointed of Asayan does nothing to help it. But the two designs of the Phoenix, the Flamespire and the Frostheart, both look really distinct, really unique, and they definitely fit the Phoenix aesthetic that they were going for. It is showing its age in terms of the fact that you can't repose it, and I think if they were to do it again, then they would make it more reposable in the wings and in the sort of maybe giving it a ball joint flying stand so that it wasn't just sat flat. I think that would be really, really cool. But I think right now it's just fine. It's not showing its age too badly, at least to me, compared to those in that D tier. To me, I think it's just fine. Next up, Free Guild General on Griffin. This is a good model. It's one of the last Empire sculpts, but even putting that bias aside, it is just a nice model. The Griffin looks really imposing and really dangerous, and the General really feels like all the pomp and circumstance of the Free Cities or the Old Empire. It works really well. Plus, you've got a two-headed variant for the Amber Wizard, plus you've got a bunch of different weapon options in there, and of course you had the original, this was Karl Franz at one point. I think it's a good model, and it holds up really, really well. Stonehorn. What do I want to do with the Stonehorn? I think the Stonehorn is fine. It's right at the top of fine, but I don't know. There's nothing wrong with the Stonehorn. There is really nothing wrong with it at all. Nothing wrong with the Stonehorn. But it doesn't convey the impact or the power that it really has in its pose or in the pose of its rider. It doesn't seem like it's got much momentum behind it, even though it's a giant rock behemoth. The ogre doesn't seem to be having any difficulty riding it. Doesn't seem to be trying to control it in any way. It doesn't have the impact of... Again, I come back to the Carnosaur, actually. Or, actually, we'll go up a couple of tiers, of the Terrorgeist. It doesn't have that shock factor of, I am coming to ruin your life. It just seems to be a bit slow and a bit plodding, which I know a Stonehorn isn't in-game, but that's sort of what is conveyed in its design. It's big, it's chunky, it's slow, but it actually isn't. It's a giant stampeding rock monster that's going to run you over in half a second flat, and it doesn't convey that to me. Might just be me. Next is the Mega Boss on Maw-Crusher, specifically Gordrak the Fist of Gork. I know about cabbage memes, I know, and from the back this model looks a bit silly, but I think it is at least good. It's at least good. This is a model that, along with the Gore Grunters, has nearly convinced me to buy Iron Jaws on 3 separate occasions, I think. At least 3 separate occasions. I've nearly bought Iron Jaws off the back of the Maw-Crusher and the Gore Grunters. It's good. To me, it's really good, and it's really tempting to buy one, but I acknowledge it's not excellent because of some of the design decisions they made in terms of the pose and the back end of the Maw-Crusher. The Gothizzar Harvester. To me, it looks a little bit derpy. But then you look at the back of it, and its design is amazing back there, which is brilliant. It just looks really out of proportion, and I think I put it in a missed opportunity. It's better than the Star Wars Prime, but I'm going to put it in missed opportunity, because the idea of this harvester creature going around smashing things up and collecting the parts for later is brilliant. But how does it harvest anything? Because its big hands are just smashing wrecking ball things. I think someone called them I think it's Haywo called them Morning Stars. And as a harvester creature, maybe I've just been spoiled by Tyranids, but it doesn't convey that to me. It seems like it's got two things it wants to do at once. Smash everything, and then just hoover up all the bits. Unlike, say, the Haruspex, which I know is an odd comparison, but the Haruspex as a all-consuming harvester creature really, really works. And that, to me, is the gold standard that I'm comparing the Gothizzar Harvester to, and it doesn't meet that. I think it would have been better being quadruped. I think it would have been better if it had maybe even more limbs to do pickup duty, or some sort of magical way of moving the bones or absorbing them into itself. Maybe I've got too much Haruspex on the brain, but to me, it is a missed opportunity to do something really sort of horrific with the Ossiarch, and it doesn't quite fall into that to me. It's not bad, but it is a missed opportunity to go and be something amazing. Great Unclean One. I hate Nurgle nearly as much as I hate Slaanesh, but I can't deny that is an A-tier model. Because it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is so far what it says on the tin, it is perfect. As a design, it is perfect. It is big, it is fat, it is gross, it is going to ruin your day, and it works perfectly. I have no complaints about the Great Unclean One. It is only my personal bias against Nurgle really that's keeping it out of S tier. Because it is absolutely perfect for what it wants to be. Kind of like the point with Dryker earlier, only better. Horticular Slimux. Horticular Slimux. You see, my instinct says Horticular Slimux was really, really derpy and I don't want anything to do with it. But the effort that went into it means I'm going to put it in good. It's got some really nice features, and I won't argue that it has some really, really, really nice features. It just looks really gross, but not in a good Nurgle way that the Great Unclean One does. It's a good model, but it really holds itself back from being in that top echelon where other people might put it. And I can absolutely argue that some people will put it here, some people will put it here. I'm going to put it there, because I have seen it in person and it's actually quite nice. Thundertusk gets the same treatment as the Stonehorn. I think it's slightly worse than the Stonehorn, because it has even less momentum, and its whole Frost Breath attack is not really conveyed in it being a woolly mammoth. I don't think it conveys its message either quite the way it needs to, because it doesn't have any indication that it can use Frost Breath or big ice balls or anything like that. It's just a big woolly mammoth. You wouldn't think of it having these extra almost magical abilities just by looking at it. So I think it's slightly worse than the Stonehorn, but it's fine. It's fine. The Lord of Change. Kairos Fate Weaver is really, really good. The Lord of Change is fine. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. It certainly fits the aesthetic of the Greater Demon of Tzeentch. But certainly it had potential to go further. I don't think it's a missed opportunity, because they had a very strict design brief with the Lord of Change to stick to in terms of what it's supposed to look like. It's a Lord of Change after all. But I think it didn't go far enough. And Kairos, I think, if this was just Kairos and the Lord of Change as separate miniatures, I'd put it up here for Kairos. But the Lord of Change itself, I think, is just fine. Catacross, S tier. Shut up. No argument. Catacross is S tier. It's the best miniature GW has ever made. Fight me. Only reason this wasn't the best model of 2019 officially is because Abaddon fanboys got in the way. This model is god tier. It is the best model GW made in 2019, possibly ever. Fight me. I adore Catacross. It is amazing, and I nearly bought an army of Ossiarch just because of him. It's that good. I love Catacross. Shush. It's brilliant, it's brilliant, it's brilliant, it's brilliant, it's brilliant. It's so good. So good. Keeper of Secrets. This pains me. This really pains me. I remember the Keeper of Secrets coming out, and I have to put it in S tier. To me, I remember having a conversation with Kirioth on Adeptus Podcastus about the Keeper of Secrets, and we were just gushing over how good it is. And the cloak is stunning. The overall pose is great. Shalaxi Hellbane looks great. It's amazing. And the upgrade from the original Keeper of Secrets is ridiculous. I absolutely adore the Keeper of Secrets, and I know some people might think it didn't go far enough and it wasn't obscene enough almost for Slaanesh, but I think that's a point in its favour. Slaanesh, yes, is a god of excess, but it's the humanoid form taken to all the excesses, this mixed androgenity, masculine and feminine blending together, extra limbs, hyper-visualized features, horns, massive length and all over the place. It is excess. It's understated excess, but I think that's a point in its favour, in my personal opinion, and I absolutely love the Keeper of Secrets. That hurts me. As an Elven player, to put a Slaanesh model that high hurts, but if I'm putting it there, then trust me, I have to really like it. Charybdis. I don't know why the Charybdis is here. The War Hydra is better. The War Hydra is fine. The Charybdis is getting on a bit, and you notice it's not a very nice model, in all honesty. I don't think it... Actually, correction. The Charybdis is going to sit there. It looks a bit derpy, in all honesty. It's really past its best. The War Hydra I would put in D tier. The Charybdis I'm going to put in E tier. Lady Olinda. Lady Olinda. She is better than the other Mortarchs. She is better than the other Mortarchs. The only thing holding her back from being here is her size. I think she's really, really small for a Mortarch, and I know that's kind of fine in terms of her lore. The Handmaidens are okay, and she looks really, really fragile. I'm going to put her at the bottom of B tier. She's going to sit at the bottom of B tier because I think Dryker is better, the Black Coach is better, the Magmadroth is about on the same level. The Arachnarok, I'd rather own an Arachnarok, I'd much rather own a Leviathan, and I'd rather own a Terrorgeist. In fact, I'm going to move... What am I going to move? I think I'm going to slide the Magmadroth down, and I'm going to move the Black Coach into A tier. I think the Black Coach is better than everything else that's there, and I think it belongs up here. So yeah, okay, Black Coach A tier. That's what we're going to do. Mangler Squigs, A tier. Actually, correction. Bottom of S tier. I am much more in favour of Catacross and the Eidolon, but I absolutely adore Mangler Squigs. Mangler Squigs are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. The chaos, the movement, the anarchy in that kit, it is absolutely beautiful. And I, again, nearly built a Gloomspite army pretty much around Squigs because Mangler Squigs are amazing. The Arachnarok couldn't do that, the Mangler Squigs could. And that's why it's up there, and the Arachnarok is in B tier. Stardrake. It's fine. Is it better than that? Yes. Better than that? Yes. Better than that? Yes. I'm going to leave it there. I think the Stardrake's fine. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. It's a big, chunky dragon. Really chunky. The Stormcast Rider doesn't really have anything interesting going for it, which is why it's below the Black Dragon, for example. But it does what it says on the tin. It's a massive, chunky star dragon that is coming to ruin your day. And it conveys that message. It conveys its power, its presence, and its general attitude really well. And having seen one in the flesh, yeah, they're imposing. They're really imposing to face down. So I think it's fine. It's nowhere near the levels of Teclis, Archaon, and the Ironclad. It's fine. Vermin Lords, B or C. I think they're really nice. I'm going to put it above Lady Olinda and the Magma Droth, actually. Yeah. So, I think the Vermin Lords are really nice. I really, really like the Vermin Lords. I think that they're a really great update to a classic design from the old Greater Demon from Fantasy. And they're really, really imposing. They're very lithe, they're very agile. And I think some of them are better than others. But overall, I think the Vermin Lords are excellent models. Though if I'm going to do that, sorry, Olinda, I think I'm going to have to sneak you down to the top of C tier. Morathi, shut up, S tier. Morathi is another one of those miniatures that I saw it come out and I was like, I have to own this miniature no matter what. Morathi to me is S tier. And again, elven bias is a thing, I'll fully admit that. But even in elf form, I really like Morathi. I think on her own, Elf Morathi is good to excellent. But there's some really subtle details with Elf Morathi, like the fact that in her left hand, she's actually holding the Iron Heart of Cain, almost behind her back, as if to hide the fact that she's got it. And she's just got really good details. And when she goes Shadow Queen, oh wow. Shadow Queen Morathi, I'm literally looking at it on my shelf right now. Oh wow. Shadow Queen, wow. Yeah. Narrowly pipped by the Eidolon to best model of 2018. I think Morathi has to be an S tier. At least for me as an elf person, I think it has to be. Mortis Engine / Coven Throne. Fine. It's a nice model. Is it showing its age? Given the black coach exists, I think it might be showing its age a little. So I'm going to put it top of D tier, but I could see myself putting it in bottom of C tier. Nagash, A tier. Nagash is an absolutely amazing model. The glow up of Nagash, and also Celestant Prime. This is how you do flying in an imposing manner with swirling energies underneath you. Look at Nagash, take some notes, come back and have another go. Because Nagash is glorious. I love Nagash. I never buy him, but I love Nagash. Orgot's Demon Spew et al. The only time I've ever even cared about this model was the time I faced Blow Brotspawned once and massacred him in 3 seconds, and the old Moorhammer battle reports where Orgot's Demon Spew was the crux of the army. But, sorry, top of E tier, bit derpy, not terrible, but certainly a bit derpy. Getting on a bit. Rogue Idol, I can see what they're going for, but as a Forge World model, I think it is the first model that's found its way to the bin. I'm sorry, please find your way to the bin. I like the idea of the Rogue Idol, I'd happily see a new one, but that one is a bit in the bin. Carnosaur, I've been rattling on about the Carnosaur repeatedly, actually, with the Dread Saurian, the Engine of the Gods. I kept coming on to the Carnosaur. And the Carnosaur is good. Wherein good, I'll come back to later, but I think it's good. Screaming Bell is A tier, B tier. It's for a 2009 model, it's A tier. If it were released today, people would probably say it belongs in B tier. I'm going to come back to the Screaming Bell. I'm going to leave it in top of B, and I'll come back to it later. Exalted Seeker Chariot of Slanesh. It does exactly what it says on the tin, and it absolutely scares the living Jesus out of me every time I look at it, because You feel like you're going to cut yourself just by looking at it. So many spikes. It's not derpy like the models down here. It's not really showing its age. It's fine. I'm going to say it's fine. It's a fine model. There's nothing too bad about it. It's fine. This one here, this is the Chaos Dwarf character whose name has gone out of my head. And it's fine. I'll put it up on screen for closer up detail. It's fine. There's nothing particularly special about it. It's just kind of there. And yeah, it'll do. Nothing wrong with it. Scarbrand. Obviously, separate kit to the Bloodthirster, which I'd completely forgotten about. Thanks for reminding me on the podcast. Scarbrand is... I actually really like Scarbrand. I'm going to put him in B tier. I think Scarbrand's like imagery, and especially combined with his backstory, really works together in the design of the miniature. He doesn't look like he's charging, which I think he should be. And if you were charging or doing something like ultra violence, I'd probably put him up here. But he's not, so I'm going to keep him in B tier. Cauldron of Blood / Bloodrack Shrine. Right. How high up can my elf bias take this without me being cancelled? That's a joke, by the way. I'm not expecting that. It's just I actually really enjoy working on Cauldrons of Blood. I just finished one on stream a few weeks ago before I stopped streaming, and I do really enjoy working on a Cauldron of Blood, the Avatar of Cain, the Bloodrat Medusa, yada yada yada. I loved working on that model. However, I look at everything around here, and I think the highest I can take it is good. Because unlike the Screaming Bell, which is the same idea, these chariot-like carriage things that were pushed into battle back in the day, the Screaming Bell actually still carries gravitas more than the Cauldron of Blood does. I think the Cauldron of Blood relied a little more on the witch elves around it to carry impact, whereas the Screaming Bell stands out all on its own. Tree Lord, Durthu and the Tree Lords, top of fine. I think top of fine is where I'm going to put it. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. I don't think it's amazing. I think it's just there and it's fine. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's fine. Steam Tank, showing its age, needs to be bigger. Thankwall and Bone Ripper. Good. I like Thankwall and Bone Ripper. I don't think they're anywhere near the levels required to be excellent, but I do really like Thankwall in particular. I think Thankwall carries it out of C- into a C+ for me. Thankwall carries that model just out to a C+. The Glockin Great Unclean One did it better. So it's showing its age, but it's only because the Great Unclean One did it so much better. Bloodthirster. Having faced down a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage on multiple occasions, that thing is terrifying to look at. The Wrath of Khorne doesn't look great, in my personal opinion, but the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage is really, really nice with that massive two-handed axe that looks like it's going to wreck your life. So, let's look at some of the models. Is it better than the Cauldron of Blood? Yes, so I need to move the Cauldron of Blood down, and I'm going to put the Bloodthirster in the bottom of good. That one I could take either way. I don't think it's showing its age. I don't think there's much more they could do with it, but I think it is still just about classed as good rather than fine. Troggoth Hag, a little bit derpy. I'm going to put it top of E. It's really showing its age, but it's not too bad. Zombie Dragon, I'm going to cause some controversy, I think, when I put the Zombie Dragon in. The Zombie Dragon... I'm going to put it here. I know it's sharing a kit with the Terrorgeist, so the pose was kind of locked in. But where the Terrorgeist really looks like it works in that hunched over pose, the Zombie Dragon just doesn't. I much prefer the Dark Elf Dragon and the Star Drake to the zombie dragon. And I think if they do Soul Blight again, and redo the Blood Knights and stuff, they would benefit from taking the zombie dragon out of the Terrorgeist kit and making it anew with a different pose. It might just be the face. The face doesn't work for me. The Vampire Lord looks really static, cool as he looks. I think they could have done way more with it. I really do. I think they could have done more with it. And finally, the Corn Dragon, the ginormous Corn Dragon. It's fine. It's fine. Right. That's the start of the list. Is there anything I need to move? So, God tier. Catacross, yup. Eidolon, yup. Keeper of Secrets, yup. Marathi, yup. Manglesquigs, yup. Alariel, you stay where you are. You stay where you are, but come down the tier, I think. Come down the tier. Nagash is worse than the Black Coach. Black Coach is better than the Great Unclean One, but I prefer Alariel. So we're going to swap that round. So that's my A tier. So working down, there's my top 10. My top 10 AOS Centrepiece models of the current time up to October 2020. B tier. Does anyone here deserve to come out of C tier? No. Scarbrand needs to go up. So that's up. The Leviathan needs to come down. Vermin Lord, overtake that. Dryker down. Ghoul King up. Screaming Bell. Vermin Lord beats Arachnarok. Arachnarok beats Dryker. Scarbrand beats Leviathan. And Dryker. Okay, I think I'm happy now with B tier. Ghoul King is better than the Screaming Bell, is better than the Vermin Lord, is better than the Arachnarok, is better than Scarbrand, is better than Dryker, is better than Leviathan, is better than the Magmadroth. But the Magmadroth is still an excellent model. These are the sort of models that you would say, this is a model Tactica would actively go out and buy and build an army around. From B tier upwards, these are things that I could say, yeah, I'll build an army using that as my centerpiece. The rest of them these are good centerpieces to have, but they're not going to be the reason I start the army. Like for Olinda, I'd much rather be taken in by some of the other Nighthaunt models than her. For example, the Black Coach. Teclis, I started the Lumineth before I saw Teclis. I knew I was getting it because of Eltharion. If Eltharion was here, he'd be an A tier, just for the record. Is Olinda better than Teclis? Objectively, yes, though my Elven bias says no. Archaon, are you better than Teclis? Not to me. Not to me. Arcanaut, are you better than Archaon? No. Archon, are you better than the Arcanaut? No. Doomwheel versus Dankhold. I prefer the Doomwheel, and I prefer the Dragon, and I prefer the Free Guild, and I prefer the Maw Crusher. I think that's the order I want. No, actually, pull the Maw Crusher up to here, actually. I really like the Maw Crusher, so I'm going to pull it up to there. Slimeox, Carnosaur, Thanquol, Bloodthirster. I think the Bloodthirster's fine where it is. Thanquol beats Carnosaur? No, but Carnosaur does beat Slimeox to me. And the Dankhold. Okay, happy with that now. That's my C tier. These are models that I would say, yeah, I could probably use you in my army, but you're not the primary reason why I'm going to start. I'll need to be convinced by the lore or the miniatures. These are models that are like, okay, I should probably get you to make my army function, but I'm not going out of my way for you. Cauldron of Blood, I would have it higher, but I know objectively it needs to be here. Stonehorn and Thunder Tusk are fine. Tree Lord's nice. Sant better. Stardrake up. Behemoth beats Gorgon. Phoenix, Lord of Change. Lord of Change beats Phoenix and Gorgon, I think. Seeker Chariot beats Phoenix. Chaos Dwarf and Corn Dragon. Corn Dragon beats Chaos Dwarf. Swap over. There we go. Okay, they're my fine models. The missed opportunities, I think the Gothizar, then the Zombie Dragon, then the Celestant Prime. Because the Gothizar, is a nice model, just missing out on some key things. The Zombie Dragon is hindered by being in the same kit as the Terrorgeist. The Celestin Prime is an actual missed opportunity to me. Alternate shows, Glotkin. I prefer the Mortis End into the Glotkin. Swap over, please. Thank you. War Shrine, Manticore. Actually, Glotkin, just go down here a bit. Cygor. Prefer the Steam Tank to the Cygor. Prefer it to the Edge of the Gods. Yep, I'll do that. Those are models that are sort of like, if I have to, I'll get them. These are models that I'll actively avoid. And I think I've got them in the order I want them. Almost. Pull that down to there. I do like the Charybdis just enough. Okay, there we go. There we go. How long have I been going? I don't really know. But that is my version of the Haywo tier list for AOS Centrepiece models. So I'm going to save and download that. I'm going to share it on Twitter once I publish this video. And you are welcome to use the link in the description to make your own. And feel free to send them to me. Either write them in the comments as a big long list. With or without reasons, it's up to you. You might be there writing an essay. Because there's something like 100, maybe not 100, 5, 10, 18, 26, 29, 32... 42, 45, 48, 51, 55, 62 models there. There's 62 models there. So I don't think I need a full video essay on each of them. But feel free to let me know what you think. Please feel free to yell at me for my Elven bias. I know. There's probably a lot of you cursing my name that Techless is that high. And probably a number of you looking at me going, Tac, what? But that's my opinion. This has actually been really fun. I've really enjoyed doing this. So I might actually look to do some other tier list videos in future because this is fun. I enjoyed doing this. So I think we'll do this again sometime. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen, Xenos of all ages and everything in between. That has been my tier list of AOS Centrepiece models. Have a go at your own by the link in the description. And make sure to check out that Techless conversion because it's amazing. But now though, this has been Tactica Imperialis. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again. Goodbye.